Check. Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council for the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, July 15th. I'm Deputy Mayor Doug Kellum and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7:01 p.m. A warm welcome is extended to councillors, staff, and delegations who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether being physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in the chamber, as able, are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we're on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous people of Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. This evening, I do have regrets from Mayor Todd Kasenberg and Councillor Neil Anstead. There are no council recognitions this evening, so let's move into item number 5 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. Councillors, do any of you have pecuniary interest to declare at this time? Seeing none, should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, please declare it then. Regarding item 6 on our agenda, I have a motion before me for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows. that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Moved by Councillor Richardson, second by Councillor Norton. All those in favor? I guess we'll have that vote, please. I'm used to the county. And that is carried. We're now at item 7 on our agenda. It is the so-called consent agenda. There are 11 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, anything to extract here or any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I have a motion that reads as follows. That consent items 7.1 to 7.11 be received for information and the minutes of the July 8th, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, second by Councillor Andreessen. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Moving on to agenda item 8. We do have one public meeting and one delegation this evening. With regards to the public meeting, I will call for a recess from our regular council meeting. Public meeting is to consider the drainage report for the Mapleview branch of drain number 59. Welcome to the assessed landowners. At this time, I will call on Brandon Widmer, Street Associates, to present the report.
Good evening, everybody. I have quite a simple drain that was recently reconstructed. I personally, this one, drain number 59. We did have a request or petition for a new branch. This is located in Tiviadale, right on the tip. We have a commercial industrial thing moving in. I believe it's a milk place or plant to a drain that we recently constructed. So tonight we have a drain that's 77 meters long. It's 12-inch sealed pipe. We worked with the consultant of the developer to match in with their stormwater management. So we do have a project here. It's rather small. It's all assessed to them and Mr. Wood, who is the person that severed the property. And the project is approximately 900. I guess if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy.
Thank you, Brandon. I'll now take questions from any of the assessed land owners and/or council. Nothing? There's nothing, Brandon?
No, this one's pretty straightforward, and you can thank Scott Richard for communicating with both of them.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Note, following the public meeting, council will pass a resolution to accept the report and pass another resolution to set the meeting date for a court of revision later in the meeting, and the bylaw will be provisionally adopted. I now will reconvene back into our regular council meeting. I have a resolution that says that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accepts the Mapleview branch of drain number 59 reported June 10th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Duncan, second by Councillor Norton. Questions or comments? Let's have that vote. Okay. Please note Councillor Andreessen has recorded a vote. Thank you. And that is carried. And finally, a resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will hold the Court of Revision for the Mapleview branch of drain number 59 on August 26, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Blazak. Questions or comments? Let's have that vote, please. another recorded vote through for Councillor Andreessen, please. And that is carried. Moving on to our agenda, we do have a delegation this evening. The delegation this evening is from the City of Stratford Social Services Department, Housing and Homeless Planning and Programs. And I welcome, I believe I have Kim, Jeff, and Kelly. Welcome to North Perth.
Good evening, Your Worship. Nice to see everybody. We're here to present the findings of a public forum we held on housing and homelessness on April 3rd of this year that gives us feedback to form our programming and our initiatives for the 10-year housing and homelessness plan. So again, this is the first part here is just a reminder of how we talk about the housing spectrum, right? We look from anywhere from unsheltered, emergency housed, provisionally accommodated, supportive housing, community housing, rent supports, private market and rental, and the home ownership. So we're looking at the whole gamut of the housing. And just again, this is something that we've presented before, that we are the Consolidated Municipal Service Manager. We call it CMSM, and we have the provincial designation. We are one of 47 service managers in Ontario, and we administer the social services to the residents of Stratford, Perth County, and St. Mary's. So tonight I brought along my esteemed colleagues, Jeff Wilson, the Manager of Housing, and Kelly Stone, the Supervisor of Housing, and they will present the findings.
Thanks, Kim. And thank you for having us this evening. So just as a quick reminder about the Housing Division, our Housing Access Centre manages the centralized waitlist for rent-geared income housing. The Housing Division also provides oversight to community housing providers, administers rent supplement and housing allowance programs, and federal provincial affordable funding programs. And specifically to North Perth, we have a number of properties and townhouses in North Perth. So those are for a total of 91 units between our apartment buildings and our semi-detached houses. So moving on to our consultation. So as Kim said, this occurred April 3rd, and we had good turnout. I'd say between 30 and 40 people at any given time. There were a few different ways that we were receiving feedback. So one of them, we did a poll of everyone who attended, and using the categories from our housing and homelessness plan, we asked what everyone's main area of interest or main focus would be. So as you can see, the top area of interest was attainable housing, followed by ending homelessness, next with sustaining community housing, and lastly with addressing diversity needs. But all actually relatively close. It wasn't. They were all sort of similar levels of interest, which was interesting. So another way we received feedback was some sort of group discussions around tables, and some table discussions where kind of we just had sort of free-flowing discussions and took notes and that sort of thing. So as you can see, one of them was about initiatives in other communities, and supportive housing was one thing, tiny homes potentially, and education about housing. As far as long-term housing solutions, there was non-traditional housing solutions, supportive housing, again, transitional housing, and improved transportation options. And when we're looking at things that are currently working to address housing and homelessness, we're looking at community outreach workers, homelessness task force, collaboration, and regular communication. Another discussion we had was around what it would be like for someone to try to find housing. So I think challenges shouldn't be that surprising, looking at the cost of housing, available housing stock, and knowing or not knowing where to look. As far as things that could be helpful is the community outreach worker, agencies collaborating and sharing information. Potential gaps were around ESL supports, support for newcomers, and financial supports. And I think with that, I'll pass it on to Kelly.
So when we look at what we know that as of June 30th, 2024, there were 524 applicants on the centralized wait list. We can see that the highest demand is for one bedroom, and a majority of applicants are applying from within Perth County. This number is reflective of 348 applications for rent geared to income housing or community housing within North Perth. It should be noted, though, that those are not unique applications. So what we often find is that individuals who are applying for housing apply for multiple units at one time. The exception to that would be 905 to 949 Davidson Ave, because those are family units. So those are comprised of 3 and 4 bedroom townhomes, whereas the other properties listed there are bachelor and 1 bedroom units. This slide reflects our local by name list data and tells us that as of May 31st, 175 households were experiencing homelessness in our service area. 90% of those were experiencing chronic homelessness, which basically just demonstrates any individual experiencing homelessness for longer than 6 months. The majority of these individuals identify as male. The majority of these individuals were single adults, and 58% are measured as high acuity, which demonstrates a higher depth of need for health and social services when we look at what supports are going to be needed in order to exit homelessness. And then everybody's always curious about what is our homelessness response. So locally, we utilize local motels in place of a traditional shelter system. There's eligibility criteria for this program, and individuals are required to engage daily in housing-focused solutions. We know that homelessness prevention at all costs is always the best measure if we can try to support individuals with that so that they don't ever enter our homelessness system. That program assists with moving costs, last month's rent and utility arrears through a program known as the Housing Stability Bank. And then housing assistance and outreach supports are housing-based supports for individuals experiencing homelessness or who are at risk of experiencing homelessness. And that's done through a combination of street outreach workers and the North Perth Community Developer, which is a partnership between the City of Stratford and the Municipality of North Perth, which assists local community members. And outreach workers work alongside the community developer to work with unsheltered individuals on housing-focused solutions. Things like completing housing applications, assisting with ID replacement, and facilitating connections to voluntary services such as health and medical needs. That's it. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. Council, open up to first comments or questions. Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Campbell. Thank you to the team for your report, and through you, Deputy Mayor Campbell. I do have a couple questions. One question is just around the number of 175 and whether that relates to those who are living rough, or is that just, does that also include those who are seeking housing but have a short-term plan at the moment? And secondly, I'm just wondering, in communities, relative communities of this size, speaking of Perth County, the City of Stratford, and St. Mary's altogether, does that 175, how does that compare to other communities of the same size? Are we comparable? Are we higher? Not that I like 175 at all, but I'm just curious to know what how we compare, because I have a feeling that this is not just a Perth County issue. Thanks.
Thank you, through your worship. The 175 is not everybody that is living on sheltered or rough. Homelessness is people that may be couch surfing is a key thing, or looking, it's not stable housing. So that does not constitute the actual living rough. On your question of of how do we compare. I can't necessarily comment, but what I can say is this is not only a local problem, provincial problem, it's a national problem. So by no means are we alone in this, and you are correct. It is a growing issue that we are advocating to the province and to the feds to help solve.
Okay. Any other councillors? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor, and through you, thanks very much for the presentation, Kim, Jeff, and Kelly. The question I have is if we could just put up the list of the addresses. Thanks very much. So we've got the 5 properties in Listowel and 1 in Atwood. Can you tell me the average age, or the average age of those units?
Thank you, councillors, through your worship. Specifically, I don't have the ages of those particular buildings in mind, but I know across our portfolio, our oldest building was built in about 1957 and our newest was 1972. So it would be somewhere in that range.
And through you, could you just confirm for council who actually provided the funding to build those units?
I believe that was the province.
And then the last point is that this gets to a point is that in terms of the need for continued investment by the province and frankly the federal government is resounding because our issue is that we have grown substantially since 1959 through 1972. However, there's been no funding to build new housing within our community. So when we talk about the issue of homelessness, the municipality of North Perth is showing its willingness to do certain things. But again, I underscore what this council and this community know is that we need to have significant investment again from our province to do the sorts of things that have served our community well over that period of time. But there is a need for more, and there has been need for this for decades. So I guess I'm getting on a soapbox here, but the reality is that we know based on our numbers is that we have a problem. And this problem didn't come just overnight. It's happened since the last one was built in the 1970s. So I'll underscore again, perhaps this council will again write our premier and our MPP and to bring them to the table to make plans to invest significantly so we can address the needs within our community that you and Kelly and Kim have talked about, the people that need places to live. I fully believe in terms of those that are able to afford will get a spot, but there's those that can't. And the reality is that it doesn't matter if we haven't got enough to do that, we can't have people live here. So our community suffers as a result, let alone the families, let alone the fact that our employers can't get people to stay and work here because there's no place to live. So this just goes back to, again, the fact that there's been no investment by the province in terms of building new accommodation of such a manner that they did for that relatively brief period. So that's more comments as opposed to direct questions other than my 3 specific ones, which talk about our number of units. But it's a sad state of affairs, frankly, is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and question. Anyone else? Councillor Andreessen?
Just one last request for you, Deputy Mayor Kellum. Just wondering if Kim McElroy wouldn't mind sending councillors a copy of that presentation. That would be wonderful if possible.
Through your worship, I will send it to CAO Snell and get it distributed.
Thank you so much.
There's no further comments or questions. Thank you again, Kim, Jeff, and Kelly, for your presentation. This brings us to item number 9, reports from departments and key staff. With item 9.1, we have the Manager of Development and Protective Services with the Community Risk Assessment. Welcome, Jan.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Kellum and Council. I do have to admit to being a little distracted. All three North Perth Fire Department stations are out right now at an industrial fire in West Perth, and their safety is top of mind, so please bear with me. Ontario Regulation 378-18 requires that all municipalities conduct a community risk assessment and use that assessment to inform decisions about the provision of fire protection services within their community based on the identified risks. By identifying fire and life safety risks and prioritizing those risks, fire departments are better positioned to determine which risks to address and the appropriate levels of service to do so. 9 mandatory profiles were considered when preparing North Perth's CRA. These include geography, building stock, critical infrastructure, demography, hazards, public safety response, community services, the economy, and past loss and event history. North Perth CRA also considers future growth within our community. The most notable risks and recommended risk treatment options are described below. So the first, prioritizing the retention and recruitment efforts for volunteer firefighters. So while volunteer firefighters provide a cost-effective approach to fire protection within a community, as North Perth continues to grow, our call volume will as well. Additional efforts are required to recruit and retain volunteer firefighters, including continued partnerships with LDSS, and a compensation review, which is expected to be completed this fall for consideration in the 2025 budget. That review considers both financial and in-kind compensation for North Perth's volunteer firefighters. Developing an enhanced public fire and life safety education program. The demographic profile within the CRA identifies specific individuals and groups of individuals who are considered at higher risk to fire risk. North Perth would definitely benefit from an enhanced public fire and life safety program that considers these high-risk occupancies and populations. There is potential to partner with other municipal departments and community organizations and to translate resources that also consider cultural practices and values that are new to North Perth. As most of you know, we recently launched a public safety announcement with PGA Golf Pro Corey Connors. And that PSA targeted residential fire risk, which represents North Perth's largest building code classification and the occupancy type that experiences the highest number of fires. Agricultural properties were also identified in the CRA as having unique risks, with farm building accounting for a high proportion of fire loss within the municipality. So a large agricultural property typically has a large property value to it. So if we lose one of those, it really skews our numbers year to year. And sometimes we experience more than one of those in a year. So it really does play into our dollar loss stats. The North Perth Fire Department is currently investigating an opportunity to work with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture and our agricultural specialist to create resources specific to reducing fire and accidents at farm properties. Introducing a comprehensive strategy for false fire alarms. So the highest proportion of calls that the Listowel station responds to is related to false alarms. These alarms cause a significant demand on our current resources. They aren't specific to an 8:30 to 4:30. They're usually the ones that happen in the middle of the night. Someone's smoke alarm is chirping, and they call 911. So not the best use of our resources by any stretch. We did increase the fees in 2023 for repeat offenders, for those who are not maintaining their system, and for us to be called to a property multiple times. That has reduced, I would say, since 2023, but we continue to experience this, especially in our residential occupancies, and we're finding it's people who are new to North Perth and maybe new to volunteer fire service, more from the cities, who are used to a career department responding. Another opportunity that may be available to us is a more robust enforcement strategy. So in addition to charging for the response to an occupancy that has a fire alarm system, there's also the opportunity to charge someone. And those carry hefty fines. We certainly wouldn't do it on the first go-round, but if we're being called there multiple times, they're not maintaining their system, and that shouldn't be a taxpayer expense. So that's certainly an enforcement option that we haven't used traditionally, but it's something that we could consider. Implementing a routine fire safety inspection program. So fire safety inspections are currently performed on a request and complaint basis. That's the approved level of service as set by council under our establishing and regulating bylaw. This CRA identifies increased risk in residential occupancies, buildings occupied by vulnerable persons, farm buildings, and industrial occupancies, prioritizing these buildings by implementing a routine fire safety inspection, rather just when we're called for a request or complaint, but actually implementing a schedule is an efficient and effective strategy that's used in various jurisdictions in the province and does seem to reduce calls. Conducting pre-planning activities. Pre-planning involves a fire department personnel walking through buildings and documenting a plan to effectively manage an emergency at that property. It would be beneficial for the MPFD to conduct pre-plans for all of North Perth's major employers, vulnerable occupancies, schools, daycares, seniors' residences, and multi-story, multi-residential occupancies to reduce the risk of fire and to have a good plan in place if we do get called there for a fire emergency. As the municipality continues to grow, emergency call volumes will increase and our traffic congestion will slow our response capabilities. Developing a master fire plan with the primary objective of providing council with a clear understanding of the services and programs that we currently provide, along with areas of improvement, would ensure the municipality is providing effective and efficient fire protection services. The cost associated with developing a master fire plan in 2026 was included in the 2024 development charges study. But to do all of these things, the current staffing that we have just does not allow it. We are at capacity. And so for us to enhance fire and life safety education, move to a routine fire safety inspection program and pre-planning activities would require additional staff. Some of the tasks that are associated with the enhanced levels of service that I discuss here could be recouped through user fee system. That's something that's certainly done across our province. And if we were to go down that road, I would suggest non-traditional work weeks for anybody being brought in as a new hire, so that would allow for some weekend work, because that was identified as an issue for recruitment and retention of our volunteer firefighters. If there was new staff brought in, they could also help out on those weekends, which would reduce that burden on our volunteers. The costs associated with the recommended risk treatment options will be considered as part of the 2025 budget process. And the recommendation that I'm making this evening is that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the 2024 Community Risk Assessment for information. As was noted in Clerk Carter's email to you, it's not a public document. There will be a public-facing storyboard, they call it, that will be brought out this fall so that our public can see some of the information that's appropriate for them to see. Happy to answer your questions at this time.
Thank you, Chief Pape. Council, first comments or questions? Councillor Andreessen?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Kellum. Thank you, Chief Pape. It's very important to look at our risk factor in terms of the community with these types of fire incidents. I have two questions. One's just to clarify around user fees, if you could just kind of give a few examples.
Sure.
And the second question I have is, with a lot of agricultural practices here in North Perth, we have tall elevation silos, we have manure tanks, manure pits. Is there specific training for firefighters on those types of agricultural practices that I would deem pretty dangerous for our firefighters? Thanks.
Sure. Through you, Deputy Mayor Kellum. So to answer your first question, the user fees that we currently have. So if someone's involved in motor vehicle collision, they will receive a bill that they can forward to their insurance for our response. So that's one way of recouping our costs. If we conduct a fire safety inspection, at this time there is a fee for that service, but our fees could stand an increase. It's been a while. Because it shouldn't be costing the taxpayer. It should, in my view, in most jurisdictions in Ontario, that's something that is borne by the person requesting the inspection. Some agencies require it for licensing, like our daycare centers. They are required to do it for licensing, and so there is a fee attached to that. If we are asked to conduct an inspection of a tent, there is a nominal fee attached to that. But if we were doing routine inspections, it would be quite easy for us to determine which ones we're going to do each year, put them on a rotating schedule, and it would not be challenging for us to figure out how much revenue that would bring in. It would not be insignificant. So that's the type of user fees. As to your second question about agricultural accidents and if there's specific training. So something like a silo, that would be considered a high angle rescue. At this point in time, North Perth Council does not authorize that. So our staff does not receive training on that. It's very technical. It's something that requires specialized equipment, very specialized training that requires recertification every so often. And with our current volunteer status, we can't be guaranteed which firefighters are coming through that door to get on that truck. So it's difficult to determine who should receive that training. It would be required in all three stations, quite frankly, if we were to look at where our silos are located in town, or in the municipality. When we look at our past loss and event history, we have not responded to a lot of silo calls. Unfortunately, in the last 8 months, we've had 3 instances, 2 in grain bins, one with a positive outcome, one with a difficult outcome, and we had a false alarm at a silo where the farmer did all the right things and had a communication plan set up, and he's just fine. But in all of Deputy McEwen's 35 years experience, we've never had these types of calls, and all of a sudden we've got a bunch of them clustered within the last 6 to 8 months, right? So at this time, we don't have that level of training. Specialized training is very, very costly. Our volunteers are explaining to us that they are tapped. And so to ask them to do more training for an enhanced level of service like that, I think we would struggle to find enough to put their hands up.
Good. Any other councillors? Councillor Johnston?
Thanks, Chief Pape. And just on those, I agree with you, Leanne. It's very specialized training, and I know it. And I think when we increase staff to more full-time officers, I think that's when we'll be looking to have that. Because I don't see a way to get the volunteers to do it. Yeah. When we talk about the ag properties, and I'm sure you're very well aware of it, but I think working with our insurance companies, like I know Trillium, I believe now on all new builds is requiring a monitoring system. We have one called PrevTech. It's a company out of Quebec. And, you know, it has sat in my barn for 5 years. We pay a nominal fee every year. And 2 months ago at 10 o'clock at night, they called me and said, you have a hot motor. And I went out and hit a breaker, and he said, you don't have a hot motor anymore. You know what I mean? So it is amazing what they can do. And I think that would, working with our ag specialists and with our insurance companies, I think if we can get more monitoring systems out there like that, especially in some of the older barns, as these hog barns age, they deteriorate pretty rapidly, and that's where a lot of our fires come from. And dairy barns the same way. So I think your plan is great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Anyone else? Councillor Blazik?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. It can be very easy as a citizen of this community of many rural municipalities to sit back and enjoy our everyday life and take for granted the hard work and the commitment of volunteer fire departments. I'm sure it happens every single day. I really like the aspect of your plan that talks about educating people who are coming from outside of North Perth and perhaps are unfamiliar with how volunteer departments work. I think that the more education we can give, the better. You and your team provide a service for this community that we, quite frankly, are not even capable of thanking you for, but thank you anyway. And I just want to say that you have my support in the strategies that you want to implement, and I hope that you feel that council is behind you in all of the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. Anyone else? See none. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
That being said, I do have a resolution that reads as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the 2024 Community Risk Assessment for information. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, second by Councillor Richardson. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. For item number 10, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or our committees? Seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence, and I believe we have two pieces of correspondence this evening. The first one from the BIA, I'll read the resolution. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from the Listowel BIA to close Argyle Ave North from Main Street to 130 Argyle Ave, Plaza parking lot entrance on August 9th, 2024 from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth grants an exemption to any timing regulations stipulated by the noise bylaw for activities generated by the Listowel BIA Summer Block Party on August 9th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And further that staff be directed to advise North Perth Fire, OPP, EMS, Public Works, and bylaw enforcement of these exemptions. May I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Blazek, second by Councillor Duncan. Questions or comments regarding this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Our second piece of correspondence, it's regarding the Terry Fox run, I believe. And the resolution reads as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the proposed route for the 2024 Terry Fox Run and the North Perth Trail. And that staff be directed to notify North Perth Fire, OPP, Public Works, Facilities, and EMS of this event. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Andreessen, second by Councillor Nordham. Questions or comments regarding this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Oh no, I just want to. Okay, moving on to, I just got booted out, sorry. Moving on to bylaws. We do have one bylaw this evening. And the bylaw reads as follows. That bylaw number 51-2024 be read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, second by Councillor Andreessen. Questions or comments? Let's have that vote. Manual, I booted out, sorry. Thank you. And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to our agenda this evening. Item number 13, do any councillors wish to give a notice of motion this evening other than Councillor Nordham? Seeing none at this time, Councillor Nordham, I will ask you to read your notice of motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kelm. Whereas the corner known as Main Corners has been accustomed to many accidents, close calls, injuries, and unfortunately fatalities. And whereas improvements have been made in the past, but further improvements must be made to prevent accidents, injuries, and fatalities in the future. And whereas further improvements such as a roundabout are costly and must be budgeted for over a period of time. Now therefore be it resolved that the Municipality of North Perth Council asks Perth County Council to request further review of the intersection of Perth Road 88, and 178, otherwise known as Main Corners.
Thank you for reading that aloud. I take it that Councillor Nordum, you will move that. May I have a seconder? Councillor Johnston. Go ahead.
I agree wholeheartedly with this, and I want to give credit to a past member of council that also did a lot of work on trying to get this improved, was former Mayor Julie Behrens. I served on police board with her for many years, and it was brought up many times, and I believe Sergeant Quello even brought up some stats at one point that was sent to Perth County about how many fatalities, accidents, and calls for service there were at that intersection. So I agree wholeheartedly with trying to get something done at that intersection to save lives.
Thank you for the support with us. Questions or comments? Councillor Andreessen?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Callum, Deputy Mayor Callum. I do support this, of course. I'm very concerned about that intersection. Um, my misgivings about the motion is just the direction to Perth County Council. My concern is that I would really like to see something done sooner than later, and this is very open-ended. My also concern is that what if they decide to put a light there instead of a roundabout? Because I don't think a set of lights is safe either. In fact, I think it's probably even a worse type of approach for safety at that intersection. So I do support this wholeheartedly. I'm just wanting to make sure this is a very strong request to County Council, as well as a hope that they're going to move towards a solution like a roundabout versus any other kind of traffic solution like lights. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I agree with your comments, but I don't think we can tell them what they have to do with their road. But I think this is where we rely on our county council reps, that when this letter is brought up or this request is brought up, we hope that our council reps will speak and say, because it's on a curve and you're speeding up to go into Huron County, traffic lights are just going to get run. So I agree with you. I don't think traffic lights are the solving the problem, but when it's not our road and not our money, technically, we can't tell them, but we can certainly suggest through the, deputy warden to get our thoughts brought up.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally support this. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I can't speak for Councillor Duncan, but I will support this at the county. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Fully in support of this resolution, and just one friendly little amendment, if I may, is that we add the word Perth Road 178, just so that we have that clearly indicated. And I certainly agree with Councillor Andreessen and certainly Councillor Johnson's points, and I'm glad to hear the Deputy Mayor and our other county councillors are going to be bringing this matter fully to the notice of County Council. Unfortunately, unless we continue to raise the issue of concern, nothing will be done. So I applaud Councillor Nordum bringing this forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell, and once again, Councillor Nordum, thank you for bringing it forward. Last comments? We do have it on the floor. Can we have a vote, please? And that is carried. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to item 14. Item 14, are there any announcements that would be the benefit to our community or that would reflect well in North Perth at this time? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Callum. I just want to announce that Blissful Fair is gearing up to host a great event again this year. This Thursday, July the 18th, we're going to be hosting free gates, so folks can come for free and see fireworks on the grounds and have a really great show and really enjoy that opportunity. We're also hosting a parade that evening, which is also free, and you can see it on the grounds or on our parade route. The fair will go right to Sunday, and we'll finish off with, of course, our famous demolition derby. So we're looking forward to that and seeing lots of opportunities for our community to interact with animals and agriculture at the fair. So looking forward to seeing our community participate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Andreessen. Anyone else? Seeing none, okay. We're now at agenda item 15. We do have 3 items for discussion in closed session tonight. And I do have a motion that reads as follows. The council proceeds in camera at 7:49 p.m. to address a matter pertaining to the following. A proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding Plan 441, Blocks A and B, Plan 44, Part Lot 45, RP 44R1005, Part 1, Listowel. To advise that is a subject solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose regarding King Street. And finally, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding Concession 1, Part Lot 30, Register Plan 44R4, 735, Parts 1 and 3, Part 2, Wallace. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Blazek, second by Councillor Duncan. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Are we off? Oops.
Tested.
Good. Well, thank you. And yes, we are now live back in open council. And for the record, I can say that council did discuss the 3 items that were outlined in the agenda for the closed session. Moving on, council has mandated Good Practice Acts near its end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called a confirmatory bylaw. I have a motion that reads as follows. That bylaw number 57-2024 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth is hereby passed. Moved by Councillor Blazek, second by Councillor Andreessen. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Councillors, we have completed deliberation and taken action on the business that has become before us tonight. It is thus appropriate for us to consider adjournment. I have a motion to this effect that reads as follows. That the council meeting adjourns at 8:26 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, August 12th, 24 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor Richardson. That is not debatable, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your participation tonight. And until Monday, August 12th at 7 p.m., this council is adjourned. Oh, you wait till the 12th.